Hey guys, welcome back to 1776 or Bust. So today we're going to take a look at some very interesting firearms that I think are probably some of the most overpriced striker-fired polymer guns that are currently out there and available to all of us right now. Now, here's a little bit of a background on how I came up with this and all of the science that I put into this. And basically it boils down to me at night, laying in bed, looking at Gunbroker every single night for guns that I want to try to buy and sometimes can't buy because they're too expensive. And so with all that scientific data that I have come up with, I've made a selection of 3 firearms that are going to be on the list. Now, I didn't necessarily want to put them in order, but I'm going to have to do my best on giving you kind of some context behind these, because these guns are guns that I've owned, guns that I've kind of liked. But at the same time, when I look at the firearms currently on the market and I look at their prices, I'm going to tell you guys it's a little bit sketchy to say the least. So the first gun we're going to talk about is kind of a no-brainer gun. And the reason why I say that is very simply this. It is a fantastic gun. It shoots great. The ergonomics to me are second to none. The trigger is good. It's actually very good. The fit and finish on the gun is excellent. And it's got a pretty good, reliable track record, at least with me, when I've owned the different types of models in this. And just to kind of give you a hint, I've owned let me think about this, the S9, the C9, the M9, the L9, the M9, or excuse me, the C9A2 and the L9A2. I believe that's what I own. And they were all fantastic guns. Now, of course, if you know what I'm talking about, we're talking about good old Steyr. That's right. When you look at these guns right now, currently on the internet, and you look at their prices, brand new, out of the box, you're looking at around $650 to a $700 mark, sometimes a slight bit over $700. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure why Steyr does that. We all know their customer service is okay, but we also know their marketing sucks. And I've got to tell you, they obviously have no clue what the actual market should look like for their pistol. Most people don't know it exists. Most people know, if you've owned the gun, that if you have the gun, there's I would say there's very little to no aftermarket for the firearm. And so for that kind of price tag, it's kind of interesting to think that somehow Steyr, in their very warped way of thinking sometimes, they think they're going to sell a lot of units, because they're not going to. It is not optic ready, which apparently is the new it thing for every gun owner. And unfortunately, it's just priced out of competition. Now, the second gun I looked at, which is going to kind of, I guess, ruffle some feathers, especially for those of you who are considered fanboys and girls of this type of manufacturer, and that is the HK VP9. The VP9, solid gun. I've owned 3 of them. 4. 3 full size and 1 SK. And they were good. They shot nice. They carried well. They're very ergonomic. The trigger's fantastic. But again, when you look at their prices, comparatively speaking to some of the other guns, including Glocks and SIGs and FNs and everything else under the sun, they are still overpriced. You're looking at anywhere, again, from about $625 to around $700. And that's not even including the optic ready version or with threaded barrels or whatever bell and whistle you want to throw on there. The price goes up from there. And so again, is it a good gun? Yes. But I do believe, once again, HK is kind of lost still in the 80s mindset that they don't have to really adapt to the consumer, that the consumer will continue to go to them. And they kind of do have a point, because people do buy them all the time. So that's my number 2 gun that I think is overpriced. Now, number 3, I have to say this one was a little bit of a tie. I really couldn't decide. So I'm going to just throw them both in there as number 3 instead of having 3 and 4. So the first of 3 is going to be the M&P 2.0. Now, not the old M&P 2.0 with that crappy hinge trigger, but the new ones that have the nicer trigger on it. Those guns, again, are running $650 and up. So are they overpriced? I believe they are overpriced. I think they should be close to $550. Again, they moved their plants down south to reduce costs, but we as a consumer haven't really seen those costs cut down to us. So yes, I understand they're optic ready. Yes, I understand they have a nicer trigger. And yes, I understand that, it has some nice fancy bells and whistles. But again, $650 to $700, I still think is a little bit too high for that firearm. I think, again, $550 would be better. Now, some might say, well, what's really $75? But remember, the higher the price, the less likely you're going to be able to negotiate a lower price, because at some point they're going to have to cut it off. So that's why I think $550 should be fair. The next third place gun, which is a tie with the Smith & Wesson, again, this is going to probably upset some of you, the Walther PDP. PDP, again, good gun, not necessarily my favorite, but a good gun from Walther. And the problem with this firearm is that it's overpriced. And, again, could you argue that, well, it's a new gun, it's out on the market brand new? You could do that. But at the same time, you're looking, again, $650 to $700 is pretty high. Now, there are some times where you can find them very low or very cheap. but those are very far and few between, which is why I dropped it to third, and I gave it a tie with the M&P. So what I'd like to hear from all of you guys is, what is your choices? What have you seen on the market that you think is ridiculously overpriced? Again, these are just polymer striker-fired handguns. We could probably talk about every single aluminum or steel gun on the market that's completely overpriced, Sig Sauer, 2011s, you name it. But we're just looking at a very small, snapshot of the market. So what are your thoughts? What do you think are some of the overpriced polymer striker-fired handguns? Some of you might say all of them. Maybe that's true, but there are some really good buys out there, as I showed you with the Tishas PX9 Gen 3. That's a great gun. Cost me less than $400. But leave those comments down below. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Please share the videos. Get the channel to boost up in its whatever these things they use in YouTube world. But I hope you have a great night. Stay safe, and as always, freedom is never free.